absolute worst things that can happen to you as an Amazon seller: get back on his feet, get back up and selling, and crush it. What's up, guys? You're listening to another episode of Selling on Amazon with Andy Isom. Guys, this episode is long overdue. I've been talking to my buddy Dallen here. Man, we've been working together for years now, but we've been talking about this episode, feel like forever. Dallen, I'm stoked, man, to have you on the podcast today.
Yeah, man, I'm happy you finally gave me the invite.
I will say, I name drop Dallen probably more than any other student I've ever coached over the last few years, just because his story is so inspiring. So guys, today on the episode, we're gonna kind of talk about Dallen's journey of how he overcame like some of the absolute worst things that can happen to you as an Amazon seller to get back on his feet, get back up and selling, and crush it. In fact, just this past December, he hit $172,000 in sales, which I'm trying to think, Dallen, if that actually might be more. I'm trying to think if Remy and Rue ever hit 180,000 in 1 month, but you might actually have broken any Remy and Rue record. So it's inspiring to me as well to see you reach these new milestones. So Dallen, let's start off. Okay, let's start off little backstory. I'm trying to remember when we started. I feel like it was like August 2020, maybe. But if you remember, yeah, you might remember dates better than me. Take us back to when you kind of first decided that you wanted to launch a product on Amazon.
Yeah, so at this time, just to break the ice, I sell a personal development journal on Amazon. At this time of my life, I was working a job that I wasn't particularly happy with, right? And was kind of seeking something more, and had been researching a lot about journaling. I hear podcasters talk about it all the time. This was early 2020. Maybe late 2019. And then early on in 2020, my wife bought this 30-day journaling course that I've been talking about that I wanted to do. So I was like, all right, I'll give it a shot. And in those 30 days, I felt like I had transformation mentally that I was excited about. So I began looking for journals online to find and sell, or not sell, but to use, and couldn't really come across one that I enjoyed. So that's what kind of sparked the idea of, maybe I should create my own. At this time, I don't even think you were selling on Amazon yet. Maybe you had just started, but not really started coaching. But because I started creating designs just myself and figuring out how I wanted to lay out. And then my first copy was just print on demand, pretty much a book, but with the layout that you write on. And then I remember you launched your first coaching program, and I jumped right on that.
Yeah, I remember this specifically. In fact, I feel bad because some other people in that first cohort, I honestly don't remember who they were, but I remember you were in there. We had just been selling on Amazon for maybe 8 to 10 months. Things were really starting to take off for our brand. We were learning a ton. And it was at that time where I really started getting into coaching, content creation around Amazon specifically. I had already been doing some online personal branding stuff in affiliate marketing and online business, but everyone kept asking. They're like, Andy, we want to know about Amazon. So I'm like, okay, fine. I'm just going to go all in. I'm just going to talk about Amazon. We'll focus on that. Yeah, just gained a lot of interest. And I remember, Dallen, we had been talking before I had a coaching program, and we were, discussing, and I was like, yeah, Amazon's sweet. Amazon's where it's at. And then I was like, hey, people are asking me if I can, mentor. So I launched our little first 8-person coaching group for like 3 months or so. We did our weekly Skype call. That was when we were using Skype. And yeah, things kind of went from there. Tell us, during those early days, I remember we were using Jungle Scout even back then. And I remember kind of looking, over your product, and me and you were kind of going back and forth on stuff. And I remember my personal opinion looking at, productivity journals, habit tracking journals, like that market. I remember seeing there was demand, right? So that was good. There was demand on Amazon, but I remember seeing there were some big players. There were some big brands that had, thousands of reviews, and, we were kind of nervous, at least I was kind of nervous about that. I was like, man, how are you going to compete with some of these big brands? But you decided this was something you really wanted to do. What kind of led you to still go with this product and this brand idea, even with maybe some stiff competition?
Yeah, I mean, you're not wrong. It was a little nerve-wracking going into it. There's a few things to that. And one was that I was really passionate about what I was doing. I knew I would create a quality product, and I knew that it differentiated enough to kind of solve what I felt had been missing. But the other thing that I remember doing was, if you search journals on Amazon, you're going to get tens of thousands of results. And those are going to vary from a $2 notebook to a $45 year-long planner. And so, but when you section it out to who you actually identify as a competitor, who you want to compete with, that pool of brands becomes a lot smaller. So when you figure on a price range and a product quality range that you want to compete with, I remember going through and then saying, okay, I want to compete ideally within like the $25, $30 journals. And these are all brands that are high quality, right? That's why they can sell a journal at that price. But can I build a product that is as high of quality that can compete with that? Yes. And do I differentiate enough to kind of carve my own path? Yes. And do I need all of the customers that they have? No, I just need a small pie. When I kind of section down, I guess, my actual competitors in that umbrella term of journal, it became a lot more reasonable. And I remember I just constantly had to remind myself that, because I would have times where I was scared, I was overwhelmed. I'd think, maybe this is a dumb idea. And even so, I will say it's a challenging niche to be in, but given time, over time you make progress and you start chipping away at what works and eliminating what doesn't. But that's kind of how I justified being able to go into a market like that.
A lot of key points, guys, here to take away. I've said this to so many of my students in my actual coaching program still today, is I'm a huge believer, guys, in building a brand and thinking about products that you have interest or experience in. Not just like, oh, Jungle Scout says this is a good opportunity, so I'm going to sell whatever the random thing is. But like, what are you actually interested in? And what have you actually experienced? It's like, I use the example of baby stuff a lot with students. Like, if you've never had a baby, why are you trying to sell baby stuff? Like, I'm going to start a baby brand. Like, you don't have a baby. You don't know how baby clothing or whatever the toy, you don't know what babies like and don't like. Why on earth would you ever go down that path if you don't have a baby? And so for you, that was a big one. It's like, I remember like you were big on, habits, productivity, wellness, improving yourself. You were creating content, I remember at the time, on social media around that. And so you took a market, you carved out your niche, you figured out how to differentiate, how to improve. You were already using these journals, you knew what was missing. And so you just made a product to fill that gap. And again, to highlight what you said, Dallen, you don't have to solve everyone's problem. Like, I think a common mistake or misconception that people have that I work with is they'll do Jungle Scout research, they'll use the software and they'll see like, okay, what's the demand for this product, right? Pillowcases or water bottles, whatever. 50,000 searches a month, okay? That people are searching soccer water bottles on Jungle Scout. And they think like, oh my gosh, if I sell a $20 water bottle and I sell it to 50,000 people a month, I'm going to make $50 billion. And I'm going to, and that's where they get all like 50,000 people, like I'm going to sell 50,000 a month. It's like, no. You don't need to sell to all 50,000 people who are looking for a soccer water bottle every month. Sell to 1,000 of those people. If you're going to sell a $20 soccer water bottle to 1,000 of the 50,000, that's $20,000 a month. That's 1/50th of the people looking for a water bottle. So that's where I think we need to focus more, and where you've proven that's what works is quit trying to serve everyone and appeal to everyone. In fact, in my programs, a lot of you guys know this, I have like a customer avatar worksheet. And on the worksheet, I ask my students to fill out like target demographic, male or female, age, all these things. And I'll get worksheets or see people and they'll be like, male and female, 18 to 55. Like, it's for everyone. Of course, journals are for everyone. Everyone should be journaling. Everyone should be, tracking habits and, doing these things. But if you're not resonating with someone super strong, right, with your branding, your messaging, your style, your design, your product, then you're not really going to resonate with anyone. And then you're going to be a generic low price product. So if you're just going to put out like, I'm just going to put out a generic journal or a generic water bottle, you're not going to be able to sell it for $30 or $40. You're going to be selling it for $7.99 with the Chinese guys. To really be able to get that price point, like you said, Don, you targeted $25 to $30 or so, right? $35 in that range. You needed to know, okay, there is a small percentage, a percentage of people looking for journals is in that market. And then within that market, where can I change? Where can I make adjustments, improvements, a better offer, a differentiated, and serve that, little audience of people that ends up being, if we're talking December, 8,715 people, but still 8,000 people out of 300 million Americans. It's a small sliver of people, but guess what? That's a nice chunk of change. So I think that's a great takeaway, guys, is focus on carving out your niche within the niche, focus on differentiating, and use your experience and your passion to make your product unique.
Yeah. Can I add on that a little bit? So speaking to kind of the passion part, if you're selling a hammer, then what really matters is that the hammer works and it works well, right? But there's a lot of projects where minor detail really plays a big role. And I think mine's a good example of that, where I do think that my passion for a product like this has greatly benefited the business. And for example, on my thank you card, my insert, I have a QR code, and if they scan it, they go right to Facebook Messenger, right? And the number one piece of feedback that I get on Facebook Messenger is something like, I can tell how much thought went into this product. And that's just a minor detail that I never would have expected. I never would have thought that somebody would have, opened that book after purchasing it and thought to themselves, wow, I can tell a lot of thought went into this. But the only reason that that's been possible is because a lot of thought did go into that. And it was a lot of experience and a lot of just almost a responsibility to actually make it useful and, in a way that people will find easy to use and get the benefits from it that I was hoping that they would get.
It's funny how that works though, isn't it? Like, people can tell when something's actually had some thought and effort put into it. Like, you can tell, like when you shop, and I can tell when I buy stuff on Amazon. Sometimes I buy cheap Chinese stuff, and sometimes I buy premium stuff that's started by, probably some American doing a cool side hustle. And I can tell, I'm like, wow, someone put some thought into this. Humans know, we know, we're very intuitive creatures. We can tell. And another thing too is when we're shopping on Amazon too, we can tell, there's an edge. That's why I think when I talk, photos, listing, videos, all that, optimizing that plays a big part, because subconsciously we can tell oh, this is not just some cheap Chinese thing. Someone out there is really passionate about this and put thought into this, and I'm gravitated towards this. Maybe they don't know why and they don't feel it, but they're wow, this realizations one, this one looks solid. I'm gonna give this one a shot. And then again, they get it and wow, someone actually put some decent thought into it. And right when they see you behind it, your friend, your family, your brand behind it, they're like, wow, this is awesome. Put some personal touch behind your brand, behind your products. Too many people out there are just still in 2024, going to Alibaba, finding crap, slapping a logo on it, selling it on Amazon, trying to charge $20 more than the competition, then wondering why it doesn't sell. That's not going to work. This is not going to work, right? You got to be unique. Dallen, I want to talk just a little bit, because I think this is one of, for me, the most inspiring parts of your story about the hijacker situation.
Oh, yes.
So give us a little timeline from, remember, when you originally launched your brand to when this hijacker issue came up and kind of what happened from there.
Okay, so I launched my brand in November of 2020, and the following year, almost a year later, August 3rd, 2021 is when I found out that my listing had been hijacked.
So we're talking 5 or 6 months, is that right?
No, we're talking, what is that? 9 months? 9 months.
Oh, sorry. I'm terrible. I thought you said April. August. Okay. So we're talking 9 months. And you had been building a little bit of momentum, right? And you had invested in a bunch of inventory. So when you say your listing got hijacked, pretty much you lost control of your listing, right? I remember this where you're like, dude, I can't edit my listing. And there's some other random brand name on there. What the crap is going on? So from that experience, we're not going to go into super details, guys, on this episode. For those of you, we'll just say slight pause. For those of you that are struggling with this issue, we can help you out. But to kind of just summarize everything with this issue of the hijacking, where you lost control of your listing, right? You were not brand registered at the time. So, trying to submit a claim saying, hey, I made the listing. This is my brand. They were like, well, sorry, sucks to be you, kind of a thing. Show us proof that you own that listing in your brand. And we couldn't, right? Because we didn't have that brand registry. You started over, right?
Right.
And you lost all your reviews. You had to basically build the listings from scratch, start from square one. And you had been selling for 9 months. You had invested a bunch of money into it. Take us through that, mentally, I would say, more than anything. Why did you decide I'm going to get back up? I'm going to, dust my shoulders off and get back at this?
Yeah, man, we could talk for days about this. And it was a very stressful time, because at the time I was preparing for the fourth quarter. So I had just made I'd call it my first big inventory order, where I dropped a lot of money. I was anticipating good sales throughout the end of the year, and and then we'd be smooth sailing. And while my inventory is being created, all this goes down. Meanwhile, my inventory is still being shipped to me. So I'm trying to figure out what what to do and trying to get it back. And at the time, I kind of realized that if I waste a year trying to get this listing back and end up getting it back, I probably would be better off just restarting now and capturing that fourth quarter where my sales are going to be the highest and riding that momentum into the future. And so I had to bite the bullet. And I kept telling myself, I've already validated the product. I already know it's going to work. I know that I made it work this last year. I can do the same thing again. It's just going to set me back a year in the grand scheme of things. What is a year? So I knew the only way I would lose is if I quit. And I wrote that on my mirror. I said, the only way I lose is if I quit. And I'd remind myself that over and over. But, that inventory that I had purchased at the time was supposed to last me 3 or 4 months. And it ended up lasting me 14 months. I had that order was in boxes in my garage for 14 months. So kind of gives you an idea of the setback that it did give me, but I'm glad I restarted. Put me in a crisis for a little bit financially, just trying to make it work and realizing I'm starting from scratch. But I just knew that if I kept going, it'd be worth it.
And guys, it was worth it. I mean, we can see in the numbers, definitely it was worth it. To kind of go back on the timeline of this, I think this is really important for you guys to listen to, especially those of you who are early, like, hey, you've been selling for a few months, maybe less than a year. Let's just recap like the timeline of this. Put yourself in Dallen's shoes. You launch a product on Amazon. You sell for 9 months. And in those 9 months, it wasn't like you were selling millions of dollars, right? We're talking a few $1,000s every month. It's going, but it's like, sweet. Like, I'm learning, I'm selling, this is cool, I'm validating. Great, people like it. Now it's just a matter of time. Boom, 9 months later, feet get cut out from under you. It takes weeks to figure out, going back and forth, stressing out about, you got inventory tied up. And again, this is at the most important time of the year, right? We're approaching August, September, October. We're moving into fourth quarter, and especially for Dallen, right? Your product is built for the new year, right? People are, getting back into resolutions. They're starting the year fresh. So the product is built for fourth quarter. Super stressful. Got to start essentially over again, right at the sweet spot of your business, kind of crawl through fourth quarter. And then even for those next 6 months, like if we look at the sales, guys, through June of that following year. So we're talking, 15 months, like almost a year and a half of selling now. We're still hovering right around $5,000-$6,000 a month in sales, right? And then that's when things start to kind of turn a corner. You get up there to 10. I remember at the time you were investing heavily into PPC, right? Guys, remember the importance of PPC. You were investing heavily into PPC, into marketing, ordering some more inventory, some more financial investment into your business, right? To get that cash flow up, get some more inventory. Then you were starting to push, $10,000 a month, 20, 15, 19, like right around that range into the fourth quarter again. This time you're ready. You crush it, $69,000 in December of 2022. And then obviously from there, this past year, 2023 was awesome, right? Crushed it, 40, 50, 60. And then ultimately again in December of this past year, 2023, $172,000. Talk to us a little bit about what that was like for you. We were texting back and forth. I know you were sending me screenshots, and I was like telling Taylor, I was like literally cheering out loud. I was like, this is freaking amazing. Again, just knowing your journey, and we're like, we're talking 3 years really now of selling, but to see that milestone, what was that like for you?
Man, it was crazy. I mean, and I told my wife, I said, something like, I knew this day would come, but it just feels like it's taken forever, but at the same time, I look back and I'm like, man, it's been like 2 years of consistently selling on Amazon, and this is where I'm already at, which is mind boggling. And to give you an idea of that, last year was when I relaunched. So we're talking about 2022 leading into December of 2022. I'd relaunched that year and things were going okay. But I knew that my product and the way my niche is the majority of it is just, it's an inventory play. Whoever wins inventory wins ranking and can use that momentum from the end of the year to maintain some higher sales. And so I made a good amount, a good purchase order going into it. And I had my business banking account ended up being like negative $2,000, which I don't recommend this for anybody, right? Because this was a make or break deal for my business. And I stress about this all the time. Chase Bank was calling me every day, and I kept telling them like, hey, just give it like 2-3 weeks, it'll all be settled. But I knew if it doesn't work out, then I'm gonna have to close shop. And most of that, the reason behind that was because I had to restart, right? That unfortunate event. But long story short, ended up working out and finally had good enough money coming in. But I guess the moral of the story is that was only 13 months ago, and then this month I did $170,000 in sales. And now for me, after experiencing that, I feel like the real fun begins around building a brand. Okay, what kind of opportunities is this going to create? Where do I want to take this brand? How am I going to structure a community or other products that are going to be focused around this brand? So it's kind of brought me into I guess an exciting time for more growth.
A thought that always comes to my mind, and Alex Hormozi has said this a lot on his podcast, and I think Warren Buffett was someone probably previously who kind of made this maybe motto famous, was basically it's the business, the person, the investor who can wait it out long enough is the one who wins. It's like basically whoever is willing to stick it out long enough is the person that's going to win. So like Warren Buffett, you talk about investing. It's like the reason Warren Buffett is worth multiple billions of dollars is because he's been investing for 50, 60, 70 years. And Alex Hormozi, big online business guy, he says the same thing. It's like people get so short-sighted thinking like, oh, I got to make $1 million in the next year. They have these big, crazy, lofty goals. And so when they don't hit them, they get discouraged. Or if they're not making progress towards that goal within that first year, they freak out, panic, and, drastically change course or whatever. But Alex says all the time, he's like, if people would stick to something, a business, an opportunity, and just like not pay themselves or not worry about it for 10 years and just put their head down and work for 10 years, they would be shocked at the results that they would get 10 years from that point. And I've seen it with my own businesses too. It's like I've been grinding in this online thing for like 8 or 9 years now. And it's like, it's crazy. Like those first few years feel so slow, but once you turn a corner, you really turn a corner. And then you pour gas on that fire and really go. And that's kind of where you're at. And what you're saying is like, now you see like, ooh, it's almost like you're trying to start a fire with like flint and steel. You're like Boy Scouts. You're like spark, 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 spark for a year. That's what it feels like. Then finally it's like spark, it lights and you're like holding, you're like blowing on it for a while. And then it like bursts into flames and it's a little flame. And then you put it on the fire and then it catches on the sticks and you're like, oh, I'm going to go get some big sticks. And right. And so then you run over. Now you're like, ooh, I got a fire. Let me go get the big daddy logs. And you start building, but then now you got a huge flame. And so it's like all of you guys that are still stuck out there, like hitting your flint and steel over and over, waiting for that spark to catch. It's going to catch. It's going to catch if you're willing to do it long enough. Obviously, make some adjustments like to see if you can get it to catch fire. But once it does, like, then it's off to the races. So yeah, I love the example of you, Dallen, of perseverance, sticking it through, having the long-term vision, reinvesting, and really just committing to the business. And you're being rewarded for it because you're following exactly the model, right? You're following exactly the model that we followed, that I try to teach people, proving that it can be done. I want to wrap up with this, Dallen. I mean, this is something I feel like I ask most people when I do an interview with them, but I think this is going to hit differently from you, obviously, based on you've been doing this for a few years now, based on your success. If you could give advice to people who are just getting started, I would say let's actually, instead of saying just getting started, let's talk to these people here for a second who are just getting ready to launch their products, or maybe they're even just launched. They're right in that early stage. They're getting their first sale or two. Maybe they're excited, maybe they're discouraged. For those people out there, what piece of advice would you give them?
Man, there's a lot that comes to mind. So the big one, which might be a cliche, but is just be patient. I mean, I know as well as anybody, when I started, I wanted it to happen. I wanted it to happen now. And I was impatient. And that kind of leads to my next piece of advice, which might be a little off the wall, but if you're working a job while running Amazon, find a job, work a job that you like. Find a job that you do like doing. And the reason I say that is because when I started, I worked a job that I despised, right? I could not wait to get out of there. And because of that, I was extremely impatient with my Amazon business. I wasn't managing PPC like I should have been. I was just trying to make it happen now. And I think there's probably a lot of people in a similar situation where they just can't wait to get out of their job. Well, you can still launch an Amazon brand and have the same goals at the end of the day with that brand. But find a different job that you actually like will just take a lot of pressure off you. You know, you can settle in and say, okay, I can be patient with this, I can be smart with this, and know that my time's going to come. But in the meantime, things are okay. I'm not, you know, biting off more than I can chew right now. I'm going to be patient, grow my brand. When the time is right, then I can do that full time. And I feel like that's been something that's been a huge benefit to switching jobs for me, is it has given me that, just that calmness and clarity. Okay, stay diligent and keep growing the brand. Don't lose the passion for it, but don't be so eager that you lose patience in the process and start making decisions you shouldn't be. Those are some things that come to mind. Another one would be to trust yourself. That was something that, you know, I was really nervous about managing my own PPC when I first started. And, you know, I outsourced it for a little bit. And then once my contract ended, I started doing it myself and actually did pretty well, and just learned that I need to be able to trust my skills and what I'm seeing and what I want to test. And I think anybody has, especially in PPC, has the capability of becoming good at it. You might not become great, but you'll become good enough to get profitable, and that will get you to the point where then maybe you can outsource it, and then it is smart to outsource it, right? So that's something that throughout this whole process, I feel like I built a lot of confidence in myself, because I've felt inadequate at times, but just doing it, being consistent and going and learning and going over it repeatedly and consistently has shown me that I'm capable at doing this well. Although there are people that do it better, when time comes, I will outsource that. But, you know, I've gotten to the point I am now, and I'm glad that I did it the way I did.
I love the patience piece there, and the advice to keep your job and have a job you like is fantastic advice. Guys, we were working on business for 2.5 years before I quit my job for Remy and Rue. 2.5 years. We had been selling for 18 months before we even took a paycheck. And even then, when we took our first paycheck, we didn't even need it. We just did it almost like out of like, let's celebrate. Like we're reaching milestones. We have the money. We have the cash flow. Like, why not? Like, why not take the paycheck? But we never were at a point where it's like, I need this. I gotta, like, if you're in that situation, go get a job. I tell people all the time who like apply for my programs or whatnot, or coaching, like, I want you to coach me. And they'll say like, I got to pay rent in 2 months or something. I'm like, this is not for you. Go get a job, take care of yourself, get in a good spot financially, so that, yeah, you can set aside some money every month for your business and reinvest what you earn, and set aside some more money, invest some more money. And, you know, if things don't work out, you got a job that you can pay off your debts, you know, walk away and go about your day if that's what it comes to. But yeah, you're going to be so much more patient in the process. It's going to be more fun for you. It's tough because I know a lot of people, I hear this advice all the time on the internet, like, you know, burn the boats, like you'll actually do something if your back's against the wall. There's a lot of that like rah out there on the internet when it comes to running and starting your own business. But to be honest, I think for a lot of people, that's just not the move. That's not the move I made. I feel like you said, like, and I tell people all the time too, like when they're thinking about brands and products, like pick something that's gonna be fun. Like you want this to be fun. And if it's stressful because you need the money and you're scared to invest the money, you know, if that's creating a bunch of stress, it's not gonna be fun. And things that are not fun, you don't do. You avoid. If it's painful, you're going to avoid it. So if it creates stress, if it creates not fun, you're not going to want to work on it. You're not going to be excited. It's not going to be a project. So make it fun and you're going to want to do it. The patience piece, 100%. It's just like with anything in life, guys. Like if you want to get fit, if you want to get good at something, it takes time. You got to practice and work at it and be patient.
Yep. Couldn't agree more, man. Guys,
I've got my new realizations journal right here. I was telling Dallen before the call. This is for today. I got to do my closing for the evening, but on Amazon, guys, I'll throw a link right here. I'll throw a link for you guys in the description to go snag yours. In fact, I send a bunch of these out to Jaguar students who join our program. It's a great product. Like Dallen said, you can tell he put thought into this. If anything, it's a great example of putting your heart and soul into your product, into your brand, being patient with it, sticking through, and ultimately finding success. Dallen, thanks again so much, man, for taking the time to hop on this episode. This was super inspiring for me. I know it's going to inspire a lot of people. And man, I cannot wait for December 2024, dude. I can't wait to see those numbers.
Oh man, you're telling me. But no, I appreciate you having me on, man. And before we end this, I got to give you a thanks too, just throughout the whole process. I mean, we talked a lot about my story, but there's a lot more to it than you can cover in a short podcast. But, you know, I remember spinning my wheels trying to find a manufacturer for almost a year before you launch your coaching program. And then you launched it, and 2 months later I had product. 3 months later I was live on Amazon, and it was just a lifesaver to me at the time. So, and you know, having you as a contact has been extremely helpful for guidance along the way. So really appreciate what you're doing, man.
Absolutely, dude. All right, my guy, we're going to talk soon for sure. And we're going to get on the episode again. When we hit that big $1 million month mark, we got to hit that next episode.
We'll get there.
All right, take care.
You too, man.